What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show presented by BetOnline. The Blazers today get their tank back on track as they get demolished by the Boston Celtics 115-93. Yusuf Nurkic returns. Doesn't really make much of a difference. He was rested today. We'll talk about his return, and we'll talk about the Blazers just kind of sucking it up today. But first, thank you to BetOnline for sponsoring this post-game show. Use the promo code BELIEVE for a 50% reward bonus. I don't know what the spread was in this game, but I'm sure
it
the
was
Blazers...
10.
10. I mean, the Blazers didn't even come close to 10. Well, Sharp went on a run there late,
Yeah.
but you can get in on that action and a 50% reward bonus. Maybe make it fun losing all these games with BetOnline. March Madness coming up. Super excited for that. This time next week, we'll be talking about first 4 games. And then next Thursday, the first round kicks off. That'll be a ton of fun. So if you want to get in on the action, use the promo code BELIEVE, BOEAV, with BetOnline. Okay, so Eric, we're in the tough part of our schedule, and this is how it's going to go, huh?
I mean, yeah, it's Boston on the road. They're one of the best teams in the league, even though they've lost 3 in a row coming into this game. But yeah, I mean, this is a tough game. Even if we were fully healthy and playing well, it still would have been, a really good win to come in here. So, yeah, I mean, I don't. The funny part is we didn't play any worse than we played the last 2 games. We just happened to be playing a much better team today.
Exactly. So, this is what I expected with the Blazers, just not being able to... Well, they lost a little different way. They couldn't score today. They shoot 36.6% from the field, 11 for 39 from 3 with 15 turnovers. Dame was fine in this game, 27 points in 30 minutes, 7 for 16, 11 for 11 from the line, 8 assists. Like, offensively, he was fine. I don't know if... Is there any other players that were okay offensively? Because this was just a terrible offensive game and a terrible defensive game wrapped into one.
I mean, like you said, Sharp hit some threes. I don't know. That he should have had 2 more points in the first half, but that ridiculous call on him over the back.
Yeah, Sharp was good. I mean, he almost got this to single digits there late, hitting back-to-back threes, which was cool to see. So I guess you could say Sharp had a good game. He was 4 for 8, 3 for 6 from 3. So not a bad offensive performance by him. He was the only other Blazer. Grant was close to 50% from the field. He was 5 for 12, 3 for 7 from 3, 6 rebounds, 0 assists, couple of turnovers. But yeah, Matisse Thybulle, the good vibes, Eric, have expired, I think, because he was 0 for 4 from 3. And in the last, let me pull up his game log here. In the last 3 games, he is a combined 2 for 13 from 3. So when he's making shots, obviously it's nice, but, after playing 5 games for the Blazers in February, where I believe he was shooting above 50%, his most recent 5-game stretch, 5 games in March, he's shooting at 33% from 3. So trending back down to that 32% that I said he was going to trend back down towards, and I got heat for saying that, like, man, maybe it's the situation. A situation can't fix him. I had a comment like that, and it's like, we got to stop buying into early returns on guys we trade for. We got to stop buying into 5-game sample size of a guy shooting over 50% from 3 when he's been a career 32%er. Now, I did leave it open, like, maybe this is a situation that could give him the confidence to shoot the ball better. Maybe he ends up being a 36%er, which would be great for Thybulle, but in the month of March, trending back down towards that 32% that he's shooting on his career. So when he's not making shots and he doesn't have to be guarded, that makes things a lot tougher, especially against a really good defense like the Boston Celtics, who the Blazers just couldn't crack today. But then Nurkic struggled. Eubanks only had 1 shot in 14 minutes. Watford was 5 for 14. He took the second most shots on this team, which is kind of crazy. Didn't have a single assist, so not a good offensive game from him. Nas was 1 for 5, 1 for 4 from 3, including 2 threes that didn't hit rim that were wide open. He had a couple of turnovers as well, not a single assist. So he struggled. Just a lot of guys on this team struggled today.
Yeah. And then you get Nurk back, who, I mean, looked very rusty out there. Yeah, it's not the best outing, but I mean, what what are we supposed to expect from him? But he wasn't very good. I thought he had some good moments defensively in the first stretch he had in the first quarter. But yeah, unfortunately for him, he's coming into a situation where this team just isn't that good, and they're expecting him to come back and save the season or whatever, and it's just not going to happen, I don't think.
Yep. I mean, I don't know. After the past couple of wins, I know people were a little bit feeling a little bit better about this team, and some of it had to do with Nurkic coming back and Anthony Simons coming back. I mean, Nurkic isn't going to solve our issues. I think we'll be a better team once he knocks the rust off, because he was rusty today. He was not good whatsoever. But he's not going to make this team good. Because there was a stat, I think it was said halfway through the third quarter, where the Blazers were getting blown by on 36% of their drives, which is more than a third of their drives, which has been the entire problem all season, is they just let guys drive right at the rim. And with Jusuf Nurkic, the Blazers' rim defense has been average this season. Like, opponents shoot an average efficiency at the rim when Jusuf Nurkic was playing. Since Jusuf Nurkic got hurt, that stat has gone from 15th, 16th, all the way down to like 23rd, 24th. So not only were teams getting there a ton lately, but they're also converting at a super high rate, and that's because you got Drew Eubanks and Trent Watford as your centers. So if anything, Nurkic might be able to stop an extra bucket or two on the interior each game, but considering how often guys are getting to the rim, it's hard for him to play good defense at the rim and stay out of foul trouble. And I think this season, Nurkic has done a good job staying out of foul trouble, but at times it's like he can't fully contest shots because there's so many coming at him that if he tries to contest everything well, stand his ground on the interior, he's going to get into foul trouble because there's so many drives coming his way. So this has just been the problem with the team all year, Eric, is they just give up dribble drive, dribble drive, dribble drive, dribble drive. Their closeouts suck. And it hasn't changed since the trade deadline. You brought in Matisse Thybulle and Cam Reddish, lose Josh Hart, so you could make the argument that maybe the perimeter defense is a little bit better.
Gary Payton too.
When lost Gary Payton too, that obviously defensively he was good, but for other reasons we needed to get rid of him. But basically, it's just this team isn't any better defensively, even after bringing in Matisse Thybulle, even after bringing in Cam Reddish, who a lot of people say is a good on-ball defender. I don't agree with that take. And it's why this team won't be able to do anything in the playoffs, because teams are going to be able to defend Dame like the way the Celtics did today, which is just send a bunch of bodies for him. He's going to have to work his ass off just to have a decent offensive night in the playoffs. But then, who else is doing anything on this team? Nobody stepped up today, and it was just an absolute ass whooping. So I don't know. I'm just tired of watching our defense get blown by constantly. That's the biggest problem for me. Has been the biggest problem with our defense all year is we can't stop the ball on the perimeter.
There's two things in chat I want to address in terms of the defense, and both are spot on. The first is that we had times playing a 2-3 zone against a 5-out team, and what that means is the Celtics don't post anyone up really in a lot of their lineups, and they're all perimeter based. Even like Horford's a shooter, so all of their action is around the perimeter, yet we're playing a zone defense to where you're basically leaving one of their 5 guys by having a guy in the middle of the paint on the bottom of the 2-3 zone. He's not guarding the perimeter, he's guarding the paint. So you're always leaving one person open automatically. So, like, why would any coach run zone in those situations when they have those lineups on the floor? It's just baffling to me. And then Chapel Perilous says, what gets me is that we're this far into the season, and often enough the Blazers look confused on both offense and defense. You would think once a play is called, they would know what to do by now. And, I mean, they're going to blame a little bit of that on Thybulle and Reddish being new to the team.
Bro, it's been a month, though.
I know. And then the other thing is Nurk and Dame got confused on a play tonight. And, I mean, that's just Nurk coming back and miscommunication there. But, yeah, for the most part, that's absolutely correct. This is a team that doesn't look like they're doing anything better than they were earlier in the season, and that to me is a very telling sign of how bad the coaching staff is. And it's as evidenced by maybe the worst assistant coach of all time, who's only assistant coach because he's the brother of our head coach. And this guy, Rodney Billups, it's a disgrace that he's on the staff, but he comes out of halftime saying, "Oh, just gotta believe. Look at all the teams that have come back this year. That's all we have to do. That's all we told him was like a bunch of teams came back this year from big deficits, so we're still in it." Like, no, there wasn't an adjustment. That's all you did was tell them, "Oh, just believe, guys. We can do it. Come back." Like, God, this coaching staff is a joke, dude.
I mean, no coach. To be fair, no coach is going to come out of the halftime locker room and say these are our adjustments.
I know, but
yeah.
he says that crap all the time. It's like the most generic.
Well, here's
stuff.
the thing: is they've seen it because it's been against them.
Right? Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Belief isn't doing anything for this team. This team is all words and no action. That's the problem, and that's kind of been this year we got to play better defense. We got to play better defense. Chauncey Billups talking about putting an address on it, and we want to be an aggressive team that teams are scared to face, and blah blah blah. Like, they say all this stuff, but they're all words. They're not about action. The good teams go out there and they show it on the floor. They don't just talk about it; they be about it. They are about it. The Celtics are about it. The Celtics are a really good team. The Blazers, man, I mean, they're just soft. They're soft on the perimeter. There's a play where Jaylen Brown just back-trended Watford down from almost the three-point line all the way into the paint and just shot a layup over him. And it was like Jaylen Brown wasn't even trying that hard to do so. He was just moving them. I mean, we're just soft. And it's just crazy to me that people still trick themselves into thinking that this team is going to do anything. I mean, having Ant back, is that going to help us defensively? Obviously, we might score a little better in this game. We might be able to put 3 digits on the boards, but we're not going to play better defense. Ant's underrated on that end, in my opinion, but he's not going to fix the problem, which is that all our guys get beat off the dribble and blown by. It's Jeremy Grant, it's Cam Reddish, it's even Matisse Thybulle at times because, he loves that back tap, right? None of these guys do a really good job keeping the ball in front of them. I mean, it's just, I don't know.
Well, we saw, Horford makes a tough shot over Nurkic early in this game, but we saw twice in Nurkic's first 3 minutes him had to screen on Tatum, completely block him off from driving, and Tatum had to give up his dribble and pass the ball. And so you saw signs of maybe them being able to do stuff, but then we didn't see that the whole rest of the game. Like you said, it was just soft, basically just blown by coverage every play. All they have to do is drive to the basket and they go right around someone.
Yep. I mean, I'm trying to think of different ways to say this team is bad. This team's just bad. It's just the reality of it.
I mean, we don't match up with. Boston's a really good team, so it's not like this was the end all be all in terms of games. But it's just we don't have enough games left to be like, oh, okay, we're not gonna win all the games against the good teams because we only play good teams for the most part the rest of the season. So we need to win games even if they're tough and against good ones if you want to make the playoffs, if that's your goal. And that's why you and I are always seen as negative, because we don't think this team is capable of winning many of these type of games. So unfortunately it's just not going to happen, I don't think, this year. But and that's why it doesn't make sense to beat teams like Detroit and Orlando. I'm
just so tired. I'm just so tired. This is going to be a struggle the last month. I don't know how we did it last year. I mean, we came in, we talked about draft prospects. At some point, we're going to have to start talking about draft prospects because basically every single stream is going to be me coming on here and trying to find a different way to word the fact that we suck. Which is fine. We can lose the rest of the season and have hopefully the best possible odds we can get for Victor Wembanyama. At this point, that's probably the 6th best odds once again, right? I'm happy with losing the rest of the season because this team is bad. It's just hard to even talk about games, man. I don't... it's just going to be a broken record repackaging the same statements with this team. We can't defend on the perimeter. We're soft on the interior. Maybe Nurkic can get his legs back under him and change a little bit of that. But the problem is people. It's funny because there was a comment talking about how the Blazers Uprise guys are so negative and Nurkic is coming back, and I quote tweeted, I said, Nurk was back today, how'd that go? And people are like, oh yes, the good old 1 game sample size, don't be disingenuous, like getting mad at me for saying that. And it's like, man, I've been the guy all season long telling people not to overreact to 1 game sample sizes, and I've been the guy defending Nurkic as much as anyone all season long. The point of the tweet is, people expect Nurkic to come back and solve a problem that he's incapable of solving. The defense sucked with him. The defense was even worse without him because he's the best rim protector on this team. He's not great, but he's the best rim protector on this team. But guess what? When you got when you're giving up the most shots at the rim in the league because you keep getting beat off the dribble, your center can't come in and fix that because he's not a perimeter defender. He's a center. So a bunch of people expect Nurkic to either come back and suck because they hate him, or if they're optimistic and positive, they're expecting Nurkic to come back and fix a problem that he's actually incapable of fixing.
Tori, you're giving me PTSD because 2020, Nurk will be back in February or March. He'll fix our defense, right? And then next season, he missed the stretch in the middle of the season, and the defense was absolute trash. And I remember specifically a Jason Quick article saying that they were counting on Nurkic to come back and save their defense at the end of the season and all this stuff. And then, so it's just, and then this year, Nurkic will be back. Watch his defense take off when he gets back. And it still could. I mean, I don't like judging a game off a 1 against a really good team and 2 against or when you're first game back on limited minutes and you're obviously
but you don't even have to. You don't even have to though. Like, how is he going to stop teams getting to the rim at the highest rate in the league? Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said, there are some things you can do with Nurk that they obviously aren't comfortable doing with anyone else on the team, like hedging screens. And you did see a way that maybe they could slow someone down like Tatum in the first quarter of this game. But other than that, yeah, it's tough.
Well, that's the problem. Is against bad teams, they might be able to have a decent defensive game. But against teams with a couple of guys that can do things off the dribble, if they shut down Tatum, other guys are scoring. How many points? They gave up 35 points in the first quarter, Eric. Yeah. And Tatum didn't have a hot start to this game. But it was, Malcolm Brogdon. He sucked too. Jeez, 2 for 13. He got into the paint, though. It was Derek White. That's who I'm thinking of. Derek White was 8 for 12, Eric. He was a whopping 7 for 7 inside the arc. 7 assists. He beat us off the dribble all game long. It didn't matter who was guarding him. Nas got beat off the dribble.
Well, when you have a player like White who's like their 4th or 5th option on offense and Horford comes out the game killing us, so you have to adjust a little bit. Unfortunately, you just have to leave someone open, and that's what I was talking about, though. You're playing a zone, and you're asking guys to close out on him, and he's good at attacking closeouts and stuff, and our guys are terrible at closing out, so it's just the ultimate recipe of what the heck is this coaching staff thinking with these game plans and development of our defense? Or like, why are we still making all these closeout mistakes this late in the season if we are holding players accountable? Why are we still running zone in situations we shouldn't be? It just makes no sense to me.
Yep. I mean,
people are going to blame Nurk,
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, Nurkic is not responsible for that problem, good or bad. People think he's either going to fix it or he's the reason why it sucks. Mm-hmm. And it's like, neither. That's why it's like, yeah, he was rusty today and it's his first game back, but that's why...
He's been offering savings for over 85
Geico
years.
Gecko.
That's longer than a buffalo wing.
The Geico Gecko just started yelling at me. I think I jumped a little bit. Got goosebumps a little bit. Anyway, as I was saying, sorry if that scared anybody watching. I thought I had ESPN muted, but you guys know how it goes. And it's usually a Geico commercial or an insurance commercial. They're telling me to get insured, I guess. But he's just not responsible. That's why you don't have to judge him on a game, because he's not the one responsible for fixing it. He's not going to fix it. He's not the problem with it. It was a problem without him. He can protect the rim a little bit better and rebound a little better, so we have a little better chance of holding teams under 120, but he's not the reason. So it's nothing to do with Nurkic coming back. It's nothing to do with judging him off a one-game sample. It's not even anything to do with him being out, really. Got to stop letting guys drive into the paint, and it's one-on-one defense. We get blown by too much. We open up too much. We don't play physical enough on the ball without fouling. We have no idea how to. And then we're not quick enough laterally at times. It's closeouts. We jump at so many pump fakes. We overextend on closeouts, or we don't close out enough, and teams just rain threes on us. And then it's pick and roll defense. We put Grant on guards. He can't get through screens, and then he's not there to help in the paint, and the guard just is able to get to the rim, and we're on drop scheme. So guys are able to attack downhill. And, Dame hasn't been the best getting through screens his entire career. I think he's been better this year, but he's still not great. And even Thibault tries to back tap on a lot of screens. He ends up behind the play on a lot of screens, trying to force a steal or block a shot from behind, but that lets the guy get downhill as well. So all those problems are why the Blazers give up the most shots at the rim in the league.
Yeah. And, Dogging him per 36 says, is anyone else worried that the dorks in our analytic department, I mean, we don't have to call them dorks. I mean, analytics are an important part of things, but they keep insisting on zone or something, like WTF. I don't think it's necessarily that. I think it's just some of the early season success when teams weren't ready for it or prepared for it do kind of alter the overall statistics of it working. And then it blinds you in the future to think that if they just execute properly, it'll go back to how it was earlier in the season. And so I think it's just a case where, unfortunately, this coaching staff is not good at figuring out what they need to alter and what worked because it worked and what worked because it just got lucky or surprised people or whatever. It's the same thing with like Eubanks. Analytically earlier in the season, there were certain analytics that posted him as like the best switching big man in the league and stuff. And if you watch the Blazers play, that's not obviously true. But like you can't argue with the numbers. So they're just like, well, maybe we should be switching every pick when it's Eubanks involved, and then that gets abused, and then the zone gets abused, and they continue to run it thinking that there's no way that stuff earlier in the season wasn't true. Look how good we were playing when we were running zone. And so I think coaches just get too, this is the same thing that happened with Stotts. I think he had a lot of good offensive philosophies when he first came here and his first few seasons here. But there's just a point where you just get so used to being able to rely on people like Dame offensively to do whatever he wants and score as many points as he needs to win games. And then the defense is just good enough to overcome that when you have a good offense, and then you get complacent and don't fix things. And unfortunately, Chauncey was brought in to fix the defense specifically, and he's just there's no other way to sugarcoat it. He's just done a horrible job of fixing any of the reasons why this defense continually breaks down.
Yeah, I mean, he could scheme a little bit more creatively and match up better to deal with pick and rolls. Obviously, the Grant on guards thing has been an issue all year, and we've talked about it all year. But also just mixing up schemes. I don't know why he doesn't do that anymore. That drives me crazy. But then in situations where guys are defending one-on-one on the perimeter and just getting beat, I'm not really sure what he can do to fix that. Guys, when you're getting isolated, you gotta man up and play defense. You gotta defend. You can't just let a guy blow by you or bully you all the way to the rim for an easy layup like Jaylen Brown did to Wofford on that play. That's kind of the epitome. That specific play is kind of the epitome of an argument for it being personnel based too. Is I don't know what Chauncey's supposed to do there to help out Watford. Watford just can't be that soft. He just has to be strong. He has to absorb the contact with his chest, dig his feet into the floor, and play some freaking defense, and he doesn't. And that's the problem with too many guys on this team, is they just get beat right to the rim, they don't slide their feet well, and they play so soft. They lack so much physicality that guys just kind of drive at their shoulders and they just open the door for them instead of trying to slide in front and take that contact with their chest. So not really sure what Chauncey's supposed to do about that. Other areas he's really, really struggled in defensively, so it's not an either-or thing. But you got guys on this team that gotta play better one-on-one defense.
I mean, to me, I've been saying this all year. If you're not good on the perimeter, what I would do, and I'm not saying I should be coach or anything, but what I would do is put my worst perimeter defenders on the ball. Because if they all get blown by, I want my better defenders there to then make up for them getting blown by instead of what we do. And what Chauncey does and is just put our best defender on their best player. He gets blown by every time. And then it's Dame and Anthony and those guys helping and trying to play paint, step in front of them in the paint or contest at the rim. And then all of a sudden it's, our small backcourt, see, they can't defend anyone, whatever. It's like, because we never have them defending their matchup, like their counterpart on defense. Like, they should be guarding the point guards and that kind of stuff. So, like, to me, I would just put Dame and Anthony on the ball, let them get screened out of the play, and have Grant and Thibault switch onto those, or just let them try to cook them in isolation, and you have all your help defenders set up, because that's all they're going to do in the playoffs is if you put Thibault like on like Jamal Murray or whoever we're playing, they're just going to hunt whoever they want, whether that's Anthony or Dame or Nurk or whatever, to switch. And they're just going to continually to run pick and roll with with Jokic until we get the switch they want, and then they'll either just post up Jokic on the smaller guy, or Murray will take it at the matchup he wants. So, like, there are things they can do, and they never. My problem with Chauncey is he's not even trying different things. He has the same crappy defense he's had all season. It's completely fallen apart, and it's not like he's out there with, like, this is an interesting game plan tonight outside of the Dallas game. Like, that's the only game we had, like, an interesting game plan that was different for an opponent, and it's just, like, the same thing.
I mean, if you're switching everything, it doesn't really matter who starts off in possessions, because teams will be able to hunt the switches that they want if you switch too much, which is why I'm not a fan of auto switching. If you're switching Dame, if you're starting with Dame on the point guard or whoever, and then you're switching Grant onto the guy, then it's still the same situation in which you started. That's why I don't think you can switch all the time. But also, in that scenario, like, I feel like it maybe helps the symptom of the problem, but it doesn't really help the problem. Like, if you have, Grant playing around the rim more and maybe Thibault playing around the rim more, your rim protection is probably going to be better, but it's not slowing down teams getting to the rim. Teams are still going to be getting to the rim at the highest rate in the league. So, with that being the case, I don't think, that this defense can be viable, even if they protect the rim a little bit better, because it's still just way too many shots on the interior.
Yeah, I mean, we know we need the perfect 3 and 4 to make this work. I mean, a lot of you argue we need the perfect 5 as well. But, I mean, if we're going to move forward with the Dame Anthony backcourt, yeah. Hogwatch, it's not messed up. That was by design.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I wonder if anybody would. I wonder if that would get anyone.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't know. People tried to argue that Cam was a good defender, and we got Thibault for defense and stuff like that, and I don't know. It just. it's obviously something that's wrong with this team. And Anthony isn't even playing right now, so you had a bigger lineup with Matisse and Cam out there, and there's like Tommy says, there's no way that you can say this team does not have at least some good defenders. At least with Nurkic out there. I mean, you can make the case that they're probably towards the end of the league when they don't have Nurkic because of the rebounding and interior defensive problems. But that's why I'm saying, like, you don't play your interior defenders out on top then. Because like you say, they're going to get blown by anyway. But, like, so what does it matter? Like, why wouldn't you rather have your better interior defenders there?
I mean, yeah, that addresses the symptom, not the problem, though. The problem is that they give up the most shots at the rim in the league. The symptom is, the efficiency or whatever. Like, if you can help, lower the efficiency a little bit, yes, it'll help the defense, but it's not fixing the main problem. It's still going to be the most efficient play for offense is being able to get to the rim because that's when you get fouled the most. And you're still going to be able to make a decent amount of shots compared to shooting some mid-range shots or maybe some contested threes.
Maybe Damon Ant surprise you though and stay in front or get through screens better than Jeremy does, which isn't very hard.
I mean, I don't think it's fixing it. So, I mean, I want
so you just do nothing.
No,
what's your solution then?
There is no solution if guys don't. You know what I mean? Like, there is no solution at this point. I'm not saying don't do anything. Don't put words into my mouth. I'm not saying don't do anything. I wish Chauncey would try some different things. I just think in the long run, putting Dame and Ant on guards isn't stopping teams from getting to the rim.
We're not talking about the long run. We have 16 games left. We have to try something, and what they're doing isn't working. So, like, in my opinion, they need to mix it up somehow, and doing that is the only real way to mix it up without completely gutting it. So
I agree. I just don't see it fixing the problem of giving up.
I'm not saying it's going to fix either.
So we agree. So I don't know. So we agree. So
okay, sure.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, you got too many guys that don't play good enough defense in order to, like, that's how it fixed the problem. You got guys that have to defend better in isolation no matter who it is. You have to have guys that get through screens better. But the problem is, Eric, and this can be a coaching thing that could be fixed, we switch enough where guys will miscommunicate switches. Part of that is we switch too much. So, like, one of the earliest buckets in the game was just a kick out off a straight dribble drive because Cam Reddish and Jeremy Grant, one of them thought switch and one of them didn't, and it wasn't even a screen. You know what I mean? It was a miscommunication. So guys got to communicate better too. Like, it's so many different issues that it's not just Chauncey. And Chauncey can do things to mix it up and should do things to mix it up, and that's a criticism of him. He has not been good. But it's also guys that aren't communicating well enough, guys that are playing too soft in isolation, guys that aren't getting through screens well enough, aren't competing hard enough on that end. It's everything.
As the coach, though, you're stuck with the roster as is the rest of the season, so it's not like you can change the personnel and make them bring in smarter defenders.
Of course not.
So there's just nothing they can do. It's going to be the 30th defense, whether they like what?
I mean, it's going to be a bad defense probably no matter what Chauncey does. It might be a little bit better, but it's still not going to be good enough.
Yeah.
Because if guys aren't communicating on basic switches, Eric, and guys don't get through screens, what's the difference? Like, how are you going to fix that?
Well, this is why I always say accountability works unless it's fake accountability, which Chauncey is proving he is not holding everyone accountable. You have to hold everyone to the same standard if you're going to be an accountability, put an address on it coach. And he has specifically called out Nas and Sharp for making mistakes that every other player on this team do. And until he holds everyone to the same standard on that end, it won't change anything. But this is why you have to start from the beginning of the season, and you can't let up, because by now, other than the couple new guys that are playing, the rest of the guys shouldn't be making mistakes. And if they are making mistakes in communication, to me, that's coaching because like it's you you can go to like 24-hour fitness or LA Fitness or whatever and play in a game, and if you have like a team where it's all like 6'2" guys and you're all about the same size, you can just switch every pick and you can just communicate that and you can just like do that. So like
but so if a player switches without saying anything, that's not on the player at all?
I'm just saying, like, for me, between Cam and Thibault and Nas and Watford, unless he's the center, I guess is different. But Grant, Sharp, all these guys, I'm just switching every screen involved with those. If it's a wing on a wing screen, I'm just switching because that's fine. You're not really creating a mismatch or anything. But like that's something like 60 plus games into the season, you should be comfortable knowing that is your strategy and not still making communication mistakes. And if the communication isn't there, like why hasn't this coaching staff all season been getting them to communicate more? I mean, it's not that difficult in my opinion.
Yeah, but if a guy switches without communicating, he has to communicate, you know what I mean? Like that's also on the player. If I'm playing out there, if we're playing 5-on-5 rec, Eric, and you switch and you don't say anything and I stay with the guy, so then all of a sudden we're both on one guy, then I'm saying, why did you switch? You didn't say to switch,
Well, for me on defense, I talk like 100%
you do
of the time.
talk.
Like,
yes,
I'm like talking
but that's the thing.
Time.
You decide to talk 100% of the time, right?
Yeah.
Like if you played under Chauncey, you would talk 100% of the time.
But that's my point. Like, why aren't the coaches telling them, I don't want to hear a single time on the court where you're not talking, right? Like that's what they should have been imposing this whole time.
You don't think there's a chance that they could be saying that and guys just still aren't doing it?
Well, if they're not, that's accountability though. They're not holding them accountable if they are. If it's 60 plus games into the season and they're still not doing it.
But the problem is it seems like it's literally everyone. So
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like by this point in the season, if you are holding them accountable, and they're still not doing it, then like I would have traded them all at the trade deadline or whatever. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
but that's the problem is we go out and get guys like Cam Reddish, who has been questionable, but like has the tools, right? But two of the first 3 buckets in this game were Cam Reddish's fault. It was him switching, and you were talking about like, oh, they should be switching all screens, Reddish and Grant or whatever. But the second bucket of the game was Marcus Smart dribbling towards Jaylen Brown, and Jaylen Brown just kind of like running off him. It wasn't even in a screen, but like it was like potentially a handoff in a screen, and they both got mixed up. Like, I mean, maybe you could blame it on Grant, like he should have switched or whatever, but whatever. The next bucket was just Jaylen Brown just basically jogs the ball up in transition and does kind of a lazy right to left cross, and Reddish just completely bites on it and completely takes himself out of the play, biting on the crossover, and it ends up being a layup. That's the thing is I don't know, like Cam Reddish I think is overrated as a defensive player. You got too many guys on this team that just don't defend well enough. Like we talk about it all the time. How much do we bite at fakes, whether it's pump fakes, crossovers, closeouts? Like we bite at everything. And it's so many players on this team. And I don't know. Like I'm not. None of this is to say Chauncey shouldn't be doing things or holding players more accountable. It's just this and this problem, because you got too many guys on this team that just don't have a baseline level of discipline that they should have already, that they should have had coming into the league, right? And it's basically like we need this coaching staff in game 66 to teach people how to not to bite off crossovers and how to close out and not jump at things wildly. Like it's just completely screwed. Like it's too late to teach that. Guys should already have a certain level of discipline coming into the league defensively, and that's kind of been one of the criticisms with Cam Reddish. He's gonna have some impressive moments, but he's not super disciplined. That's the thing with Trent Watford. He's not disciplined at all. Eubanks isn't disciplined at all. Too many guys on this team are not disciplined. Nas isn't disciplined defensively.
But that's my problem. Is like those guys get minutes whether they mess up or not. So like why at some point Chauncey had to have gone to them and said, "Look, if you bite on like 3 pump fakes this game, I'm not playing you next game. You're out of the rotation or something." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
we gonna be playing 3 guys, 3 on 5.
Yeah, but like, you could alternate sitting them out when they all do it, but like, it's just I don't know. It's like they can't possibly be this far into the season and be making those same mistakes that they've needed to clean up since the beginning of the season, and like have that not be a little bit on the coaching staff for not hammering that home earlier in the season when it could have paid off by now.
Yeah, it's just a collective issue.
Yeah,
it's a collective issue. Yeah, absolutely. Is I feel like a lot of these arguments have to be either or, but it's a collective issue. Like,
well, here's another problem I have, and this goes back to the trade deadline for me. Okay, so we know these problems, right? We're terrible on closeouts. We're terrible at the point of attack. We gamble too much. We bite on pump fakes, all that stuff, right? So then we trade for someone who, doesn't have the best defensive reputation, but maybe has some promise. But, we're trying to, once again, teach someone to play defense that hasn't shown that in his career. And then we trade for another really good defender that is like one of the biggest gamblers on steals and isn't that good at keeping just a guy in front of him at the point of attack. So, we all, like, in my opinion, like, as much as I blame the coaching staff all this show, like, they're not given the right tools, and these problems have been obvious going back to last year. Some of these guys were on the team playing in those tanking moments, and you could already tell that they were going to struggle with this if they got rotational minutes on a good team. And so, like, we're now seeing that they just did nothing to address this. Like, we've known they need a good at least a defensive backup center. Like that's, everyone knows that, right? Like, we need a good defensive backup center. There were ones available, and we just choose not to even address that position and just let this defense continue to suck. And I mean, there's no real other way to explain it other than just everyone is terrible at their job, or they're purposely being terrible at their job and not doing it. And so, like, it drives me crazy that they like try to convince you that they're trying to do this and that they are going for it and all this stuff when the organization obviously isn't.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember that Horford drive off that Eubanks closeout in the first quarter?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the type of stuff, the lack of discipline that I'm talking about, man. Like, there's just too many guys doing that stuff, and I kind of wonder, Chauncey runs guys into the ground, so you would think he did, and hasn't given up on the season yet, but part of me wonders if he's just looking at it like, I have too many guys that are too undisciplined on defense. I can't fix it. It's hard to even hold these guys accountable because it's so many of them that, like, how can I even cut guys' minutes? So what do I do? Like, and he's given up, which isn't the right answer, but it's not like he's been given great pieces at the same time, so it's not necessarily an excuse. It's just, man, you got too many guys like and there's possessions where it's like, we'll play great defense for 18 seconds and then they kick it out to slow ass Al Horford, and Eubanks will just wildly run at him to the point where Al Horford can just drive the lane for a dunk.
I mean, he had made a couple threes, but yeah.
Yeah, because he was too far off. That's the thing, is guys will play too far off. They'll make a couple threes. The guys are like, oh, wait, I'm too far off. And then they'll sprint way too hard. They have no idea how to close out. It's either too soft or too hard. They bite at every pump fake. Like, every hesitation move, guys are getting out of their stance. And then they're getting beat. Like, I'm just kind of going back watching through a lot of the buckets. There's a play where Jason Tatum is going against Jeremy Grant and has a nice dribble move, but he has a little hesitation, and Jeremy Grant just completely rises out of his stance, and then Tatum beats him to the rim because of that. It's just stuff like that. Guys don't stay in stances. It's just so many defensive fundamentals are completely lost on so many players with this team. It's actually quite quite baffling and quite frustrating. So.
Yep.
But Thibault hasn't been the best getting through screens either, too, man. Like, I'm watching this back. He's not great getting through screens.
As Eric Olson said, he's best on a team that has good help defenders because then he can gamble and play aggressive. But that's why people are excited to see Nurk back, I think, was just to see Thibault do that with Nurk back there protecting him if he does get blown by. But unfortunately, we just don't have that. And I mean, like, you kind of laugh at like when Philadelphia signs PJ Tucker and stuff, but like I've watched a few Philadelphia games this year, and he's always like yelling at people on defense and stuff. I think we need that kind of guy.
Well, yeah, we need a tone setter, and we supposedly had maybe 2 of them, but we traded both of them.
Yeah.
So that's the other point. We talked about all last year. We need somebody to set the tone defensively. Hart, honestly, like, without him, I feel like the defense looks noticeably worse. And he had moments off the ball where he'd fall asleep and it drive me crazy.
But on defense this year, but yeah,
I don't think he was as bad as people were saying. Like, he was at least competitive on the ball and like fought through screens.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes would be if every player on this team could fight on the ball and play physical and fight through screens. Sometimes that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we're playing him like, what, 35, 36 minutes a game? You know what I mean? Like, as an energy guy that has to rebound as much as he does, runs the court as much as he does, falls as much as he does, like, it takes a lot out of you. That's why I wanted him in a bench role as a 6th man, because that's what I thought he was perfect for. And now he's doing that in New York, and they've won 9 games in a row.
No, they lost last night.
Oh, they lost last night. They did win
Hornets.
9 games. Did they?
Yeah.
I wasn't even paying attention to that game.
Yeah.
Because, wow, yeah, weird. But still, they won 9 in a row after acquiring him, and he was great for them in a bench role.
And speaking of communication, I still cringe every single game when I see the stupid Jeremy Grant commercial talking about how he's going to bring communication to this defense, and that's his biggest strength. And I was like, oh my god. Yeah.
Yep. We got too many skinny players too, I think, is part of the problem, maybe, with the physicality on ball. Like Watford doesn't play strong either, and if anything, he should lose a little bit of weight so he's a little quicker to play a forward spot, but he doesn't play strong defensively. Like, we got so many guys that don't play with strength defensively. And I don't know if it's a weight room issue or what, but...
Ray says, what cap space is freed up if we let Jeremy go? So many people feel he isn't worth more than $20 million in salary. Well, it depends on if you want Thibault or Reddish still. If you want to let everyone walk, that's a free agent. I think we can get to maybe 15 million or so, which is like the mid-level exceptions, like 11 million or something. So it's not that much more. We're not going to get a player anywhere near the cap, the level of Jeremy Grant with that money. So, I mean, but if we let Jeremy walk, it's an absolute disgrace because we ended up trading a first-round pick for him and could have gotten someone like Jalen Duren or something with that pick and then be fine at backup center or whatever. So, yeah, this is a case where, I mean, since they didn't trade him, we've talked about this before, but we have to keep him.
Yep.
And I don't think Chauncey's going anywhere because he's going to have the excuse that he didn't have his roster, and that we're going to hear that same crap again this next summer. We heard it this last summer. Oh, we got some guys in that are Chauncey guys, right? And this team's going to be different. But now we're gonna make a few moves, and we're gonna hear the excuse that the roster in previous years did not allow Chauncey to play the style he wanted to play, and that the guys they bring in this summer will allow him to do that. We're going to hear that over and over again, and Chauncey will be given at least one more year, basically because they don't want to pay him. But I do start to wonder because they've been pretty lockstep. Like I haven't seen any kind of fracture in their relationship. I'm talking about Cronin and Chauncey. Uh, they seem to be perfectly in line with a lot of their moves, but I think I think the deadline may have made that a little different. And unless they're both in on the tank, like we've talked about, I think you could tell after the deadline, Chauncey's tone kind of changed a little bit. He was a little disappointed. And so I wonder if maybe he's a little mad that they didn't do more at the deadline either. And I wonder how that affects things moving forward. But up until this point, I haven't heard anything to where they're looking to get rid of Chauncey or that they're disappointed in him or anything, no matter how bad he did.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect Chauncey to go anywhere. Jody's cheap. It shouldn't even really be a conversation, I didn't sit here, back when I knew they weren't going to fire Stotts. I sat here criticizing him, and we can criticize Chauncey, but I didn't sit here and say, we need to fire him, because I could have said that every stream, and they weren't going to do it until they did, so it's just kind of a waste of words, I mean, they're not going to fire Chauncey. I'd be shocked if they do. Then you can come here and say I was wrong on it, but with how cheap Jody's been, you think she wants to pay him to not coach and pay another coach when we're not even players in the buyout market, probably because she won't shell out another $500,000, and not only do we duck the tax, but we have to do it by multiple millions, it seems like. I wouldn't trust her to fire Chauncey. So
this is a good time to mention something that happened because Jody.
Let me think a dono first before we get. Henry Mars had a $2 dono that said fire Chauncey. That's all. Yeah, it's not gonna happen. Thank you, Henry. Appreciate the dono, but yeah, not gonna happen.
So Seahawks yesterday, who are also owned by the Jody Allen / Paul Allen Trust Fund or whatever it is, they give Geno Smith off his first good year ever, a 3-year, $105 million contract. And I saw a lot of guys say that, or a lot of people on social media and stuff say that, why is she dedicated to one team, like doing whatever it takes, but not the Blazers? And here's why. In the NFL, they have a hard cap. They don't have a luxury tax or some sort of system where you get less money if you're over a certain amount of payroll. They have a set amount where you can't go over. And so she can just tell their GM and coach, John Schneider and Pete Carroll, do whatever you want. Like just do whatever you want. Like if you think this is best for the team, do it. So they can then decide whether they want to pay Geno Smith or not, because they have to stay under the salary cap. So, or they can't go over that number. So, and Jody knows she's making a crap ton of money off the Seahawks, whether they give Geno Smith $105 million or they don't pay any quarterback and they go cheap. It doesn't matter in the NFL. They make a crap load of money. In the NBA, she's forced to make decisions where signing this player like Nerlens Noel or going like I made this tweet the other day, but we could have theoretically traded for Cam Reddish for a second round pick on Monday. We traded for him on Wednesday night. We could have done that trade with a trade exception we had, stayed under the hard cap still, gotten Cam Reddish if you really wanted to think that he was the answer long term or whatever, and also kept Hart or, shopped him and got more for him other than just Reddish and a first. Or maybe you just get a first still, but you get another player back, a center maybe. But like Jody's not willing to do that because then she doesn't get the luxury tax payment of whatever, $15 million or whatever that all the teams that aren't in the tax at the end of the season get. So when it comes to the NBA, she has to be forced to make decisions that will cost her millions of dollars in the offseason or down the road, and the team doesn't make as much money, and some teams don't even make money in the NBA. So then you're stuck in a situation where if you do too many of these decisions to where you spend money, you could possibly lose money. I mean, it doesn't really matter for her net worth or anything, but like, so that's the problem, is the NBA is set up to where you have to be like that. You have to be a little more frugal if you are a cheap owner, whereas the NFL just prints money. So like you can just basically let your guys do whatever they want. So that's the difference. It's not that she likes the Seahawks more than the Blazers or anything like that. But yeah, we definitely could use an owner that treats this more like Paul Allen did, where it's something that he wants to win, whether that's Phil Knight or someone else, just someone who come in and wants to do whatever it takes to win, because that's the difference between getting Cam Reddish for nothing and adding him to your team, or having to trade guys like Josh Hart and not being willing to pay them in the offseason.
Yep. And let me just say this, Cam Reddish is not the answer. I'm going back and watching through plays from this game. Eric rewatching some plays, and I'm realizing how bad defensively Cam Reddish was today. He was bad. There was a few plays. He was not good. I mean, the whole team wasn't good, but there was a few plays where it's like, dude, this dude is supposed to come in and be like the two-way wing we've needed with size. He does not impress me defensively.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of that is, like you said, our we're not stopping anyone. No one is. So
yeah, but like he had a play at the start of the third where he just runs back on defense and guards no one, isn't within 20 feet of an offensive player for the Celtics.
They were playing zone mostly in the third quarter, so
I mean the next bucket they scored on, it wasn't zone, so
maybe they got out of it because
thought it was. Yeah, I mean, but he doesn't normally. He plays at the top in the zone, right?
No, he's been playing on the bottom.
Yeah, I mean nobody else played it like it was a zone.
They have Thibault and Grant on the top.
I mean nobody else played it like it was a zone. So,
well, maybe that goes with the communication thing. I don't know.
Yeah, like Thibault, the shot was a wide open three in like the area Thibault vacated, but Thibault vacated and went with Tatum. So
maybe
it was either
one or something.
Yeah, it was either Thibault or Tatum, or it was either Thibault or Reddish, the two guys we acquired to help fix our defense. Supposedly, it was one of those two. Either we were in a zone and Thibault just left his area for no reason, or it was Reddish literally not guarding anyone. But yeah.
Andrew Shute says she also dealt with the death of her husband, likely not easy. Jody is Paul Allen's sister. What? Yeah. And that's also 4 years ago, so
yeah.
I don't think Jody Allen's been married before. Yeah, might be mistaken, but yeah.
No. No.
He says, whoops.
Yeah, no. Oh, goodness, dude. Just rewatching these plays is just making me so disgusted. God. There's another play where, like, neither Thibault or Reddish box out Derek White and he gets a tip in. It's just, God, it's just disgusting stuff like that. We need guys that are willing to do the little things. We need guys that are willing to box out, guys that are willing to play physical. I think, honestly, the biggest difference between our defense at the start of the season and our defense now is we were just competitive physically. We're not competitive physically. We play so soft and so weak. And it's so frustrating. It's just stuff like, oh, Derek White can just jog into the paint and collect an offensive rebound because we'll just kind of like look at him and let him do it instead of putting a body on him. And Reddish isn't a guy that's like competitive physically. He has some raw natural talent, but that was my problem with like, oh, this is a guy we're betting on, is we need guys that are competitive physically. And people love seeing a guy that's 6'8" starting at the 3. They love looking at that number. 6'8", small forward. That looks nice.
With shoes.
Yeah, with shoes. But, that looks nice. That looks right. Oh, yeah, we should have a 6'6" shooting guard and a 6'8" small forward and a 6'10" power forward and a 7-foot center. Then we'll be able to compete physically. But there's guys that are 6'8", small forwards that aren't competitive physically. They're not strong. You drive into their chest, they're falling back 5 feet, and it's not even an offensive foul. They don't box out. Like, that's the problem with Grant, Eric, is Grant is not physical. He's not competitive physically. He's athletic and lanky and can do a lot of stuff because of that. He's able to block shots at the rim because of that. But you drive into him, or if he has to fight through a screen, he struggles. And those are physicality things.
Well, it's nice when he got perfect position tonight and gets called for an offensive foul right after Sharp gets called for an over-the-back ridiculous foul.
Yeah, I mean that was a bad call, but he relies solely upon his quickness in order to stay in front of guys. He can't physically battle guys on the ball defensively or on the boards.
He did that a couple times in the second half, and they just either didn't call it or he got called again. And it's like, at some point, dude, you got to know that this particular officiating crew is not calling that. But I got to say it again. I mean, that play, both of those plays, that should have been challenged. We were still in the game at that point, I believe. That was first quarter, right? I think you got to challenge the Sharp one, in my opinion. And if you didn't do that, you have to challenge that, because that's a big play. It's an and one. I don't know. It's just frustrating.
I think I figured out, like we talk about how Grant struggles to rebound, and it's really hard to figure out why.
I know why.
Well, do you want me to say it and then see if you agree?
Sure.
It's because even if he does box out or put a body on someone, he gets moved way too easily off where the ball is going to and then can't rebound. Or if he's able to get a hand on the ball, if there's any sort of contact, he cannot catch it.
Yeah, for me, it's just, I watch him like 90% of the time. Just when a shot goes up, he just stands in place where he's at, turns around towards the hoop, and just watches the ball. If it happens to come in his direction, he'll grab it or whatever.
But he struggles grabbing it even if it's in his direction.
Right.
That's
so my problem is he doesn't, like, you've seen Sharp have some like crazy rebounds, because he'll like turn around and then he'll just wait and then go attack the ball at the peak, and go up and get it. Like Grant could do that if he just used his athleticism and stuff, but he just stands there and waits for the ball to either come to him or someone else to grab it. So yeah, I don't even see him box out that much.
He can't jump and get off the floor if he's being pushed at all.
Right, that's true.
That's the problem. And that's the thing, is like everybody wants length, and Grant is the lengthy forward we need, right? And Reddish is the length we need from a wing. But they're not strong enough. They don't play strong enough. They don't play big at all. Like, Grant plays big if he has a lane. He can, like, wind up and rise up and try and dunk on someone. And then, if he has space to jump around the rim to protect the rim, like, okay, that's where he's playing big. But in situations where there's physicality, neither one of those guys plays big. That's the problem. And that's why I love Josh Hart, despite him being a little undersized, is he played bigger than he was, because he could handle that sort of physicality. No, like, Watford can't handle any sort of physicality. Eubanks really struggles handling any sort of physicality, right? And then we have an undersized backcourt. Like, you would expect that, but that's the thing, is the guys around Dame and Ant need to be guys that are able to play physical to help make up for, the undersized backcourt, that sort of thing. It's possible. The thing is, in the past, is Harkless and Aminu, despite not being the strongest guys, could play through physicality on the boards, defensively, etc. So it doesn't even take like a big bulky guy or anything. It's partly attitude and partly just I don't know, body composition, I guess. We just have to get guys that can't do it. And that's why that's why we're bad defensively. That's why we have games where we just are absolutely horrible on the boards and Nurk has to clean everything up. And that's why I wasn't so hard on Nurkic all season, is because Nurkic at least brings some level of physicality that nobody else brings on this team. And even Justice Winslow, to a certain extent, brings a level of physicality that no one else brings on this team. It's so bad that I'm complimenting Justice Winslow right now. And that's something they need to address this offseason if they want to be taken seriously at all going into next year.
Yep, they need like a guy who can just... I mean, they need more than one guy. They already have Nurk who can grab 10 boards, but they need someone who's just a monster on the boards and has that toughness to not get pushed around, like you said.
Yeah, either have that toughness or, be 7'5" with an 8-foot wingspan, because that can make up for not being physical. You know what I mean? Like at that point, right? Victor Wembanyama isn't going to be physically menacing at all, but if you're quick and 7'5" with an 8-foot wingspan, I don't think it matters at that point. But like, that's really what we need.
If they got like Jarris Walker, I feel like he could be that guy, a good rebounder who is already like got an NBA bulky frame, that type of player. So whether they do that through the draft or address it in free agency or whatever trades, they do need to find those kind of players, because our front court definitely needs a stockpiling of better, tougher players. And yeah, I mean, one guy who I'd love to see back is Zach Collins. We had talked about him in the past, but I think he'd maybe be attainable this summer. And I think he'd be a good backup, provide some toughness, always boxes out, is a smart player too, communicates.
Loves physicality.
All the problems we talked about, that's like what he is. And you do have to worry about his injury issues and stuff, but I think he has a team option for around $8 million next year, so that's someone I would go out and try to get this summer back.
Yeah, because he can play the 4 too.
Yep.
So provide some size at that position and physicality. Chat, do you guys agree with my opinion on the physicality versus length debate? Like, do you guys see where I'm coming from? Do you guys agree? If you disagree, let me know why. I'm curious to see if you guys see the same things. Because we talked last year, like, we need a dog. And I feel like that we didn't elaborate enough on that specifically. And I feel like we just did that right now. That's really what it is.
I mean, that's the most underrated part about Josh Hart, is he's not the biggest guy, but he always was mixing it up around the glass. Like, at least he attacked the rebounds, like he didn't just like turn around and wait for them to come to him. He would at least go after it.
Yeah, we need an edge. Mm-hmm. We had it. I don't think it's any, people want to call Zach Collins a bust because of his injuries, but if he wasn't injured, he's maybe not the best pick, obviously, because there were some really good players, some all-stars taken after him, but I don't think he would have been as bad of a pick, because I don't think there's a surprise. I don't think it's any surprise that we went on our Western Conference Finals run when we had Zach Collins on this team, because he was huge in that. He brought an edge defensively, a physicality that we missed, that we've missed since we've lost him. And yeah, he didn't pan out to be an all-star, but a big that can protect the rim, defend a little bit on the perimeter, box out, pass the ball now. He passes the ball now. Shoot the ball. He's finishing better on the interior this year. That's like the perfect type of role player that we desperately, desperately need. And that's the type of role player we refuse to get.
Yeah. Dylan Brooks might be available this.
I don't like Dylan Brooks. I mean, he's plays with a high level of physicality, but
That's
it's not just that. You guys, you need guys that can play with that level of physicality, but also be good at things. You can't just go out and get a bunch of Justice Winslows and expect to win. So it's not just that, but. Mm-hmm. And then we play a zone, and yeah, oh god.
I really hope, at minimum, if they're not going to fire Chauncey, they let him redo his staff. Maybe bring in some fresh eyes there.
Yeah, I mean, make him redo his staff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is all that change, Eric, has to come from higher up, and I don't trust for it to come from higher up.
Well, I mean, you see like Mark Dynal, or however you say his name, in OKC, and like that. Even when they were tanking, there was I think it was last year or the year before, they had like the 10th defense or something for most of the season, and I don't know if it ended up that way, but like they were always competing and coming up with interesting things on defense. And I mean, they had Lou Dort, but outside of that, they didn't have a lot of like crazy high upside or high physical defenders. So yeah, it just drives me crazy that we just don't see any sort of new ideas or I mean, quite frankly, it doesn't even look like they prioritize it. It's the same thing that happened with Stotts. It's like the defense is just complete trash, and it seems like they're just hoping it'll improve magically, and they're not even doing anything about it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But this offseason is going to be focused around trying to regain that physicality edge. And I don't think anyone on this team should be the starting three. You have to bring back Jeremy Grant, but if anything, he's part of the problem.
What if he's the starting three?
I mean, then you could get a big starting four and maybe it'd be all right. You know?
If you had Zach Collins as starting four with Jeremy at the starting three, what would you think of that?
I wouldn't hate it, but it would just depend on how it was coached, you know? Because at that point, you put Dame and Ant on the perimeter and funnel everything towards those three guys.
Yeah. At least if you played zone, at least you'd have, well, assuming you wouldn't stupidly put Jeremy on top still, but if you had Jeremy, Zach, and Nurk as the bottom three in your zone, like you're not giving up many interior baskets at least.
Yeah, and you can, you know, if you trap with Nurkic or Collins or whoever, you have Grant and whichever big, you know, Nurk or Zach left to protect the rim in case they get the ball out of it. I mean, it would be ideal, but I don't know, Eric. I feel like at some point, God, I can't believe I'm saying this, but if this team wants to be serious and they have to keep Grant, you can't lose him for anything, right? And you extend him at some point, maybe you do have to have a conversation about Ant and moving him. Not necessarily because like he's a problem at the two. You don't expect your two to be super physical, right? But because Grant is a forward and he's not.
I had earmuffs on. What'd you say? No, just kidding.
What'd you say? Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? Because basically, you just got three guys that are don't play physical.
Yeah. I mean, but this goes back to the whole Dame and CJ thing to me. It's like people complained about that for years, but the problem in my mind wasn't Dame and CJ. It was that they never put the right pieces around him. So I'm going to be mad if once again we trade, because like we're seeing it right now. We bring in Cam Reddish and Matisse Thybulle, two-time all defensive player, right? And our defense is still complete trash. Like it's horrible when we have and we bring in Rocco, and now everyone's saying, like, every single person universally, like, what were they thinking bringing in Rocco? Dumbest trade ever. Like, this is so stupid. Even though he was, like, an all-defensive guy and, like, had just as much value in a trade a couple months earlier and actually played well in the playoffs and all that stuff. So, like, it's so dumb. Like, we bring in these guys and then we try to fit them into a scheme that doesn't work. And instead, we never bring in the smart, tough, just super active, like gritty guys on the defensive end. And we do have one of those guys in Zach. Unfortunately, he gets hurt. And then we try to bring him back. I mean, like, I'm at the point now where I mean, it's still going to be tricky, like contract wise and all that. But I mean, if we could ever get a guy like Draymond, I think like I'm willing to deal with his stuff because like he would come in here and like not stand for any of that crap, even though he's like a whiny baby. Man, he threw the biggest fit and cost them a possession last night. It was stupid.
But see, I don't like that, but it's him being so competitive that his emotion gets the best of him.
Yeah. But so like like I just want players that like like I don't know if crazy is the right word, but like I just want players that like you can tell are passionate about the game and are leaving it out on the floor and that kind of stuff. So I just want like I'm not saying Draymond exactly, but like bring in those type of guys this summer. And just have that edge to the team.
No, you know it'll be Kelly Oubre.
Yeah, like Kelly Oubre, and then everyone will talk about him like he's Cam Reddish on steroids, and then everyone will realize he sucks at defense too, and we'll be in the exact same problem. Yeah, so yeah, of course, Peoples likes Oubre.
Of course he does.
Yeah,
God. Yeah, no Kelly Oubre types. No, like guys that are able to play physical and have an edge to them is what we desperately need. The problem is we traded one of those guys and didn't get one back. Like Thibault, obviously a good defensive player, but he's not, like a super physical type of defender, a guy that brings that edge, a guy that will really get into you and make you feel him, right? So the thing is the Celtics have guys, multiple guys like that, man. Even Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Derek White, like all those guys play with like a solid level of physicality. We're just so desperate for it. So it's at the wing spots. It's at the wing spots.
Yeah, but we do need a backup ball handler too, like for these situations.
Yeah.
I mean,
Ant can be that right now, but my whole thing with Ant is like you talked about how, like with Damon and CJ, we never put the right pieces around them. Well, the problem is now we have a piece that we have to retain at a super high cost that probably isn't the right piece to have next to them. So then it's, well, you have to have this guy who's not the right piece next to Damon Ant. And that could end up bringing up a conversation of, okay, well then maybe you have to move Ant for somebody that can, that's bigger and can play with a higher level of physicality. But that isn't because Damon Ant are the problem. It's because Jeremy Grant is one of the least physical power forwards in the league. Yeah. And it just... You have to have the right combination of things. And with him next to Damon Ant, that's problematic.
I've always been 100% against Jeremy Grant at the 3. I just think it's like not good. But the way Chauncey has used him this year, he's a 3 basically.
Yeah. And
he's played like a 3. If we're gonna continue playing him in this way, we might as well move him to 3 and put in like a 6'9", 6'10", like tough guy at the power forward position.
A lot of people have had this conversation recently, and here's why I've always thought he's a 4. Because his offensive skill set is better at the 4. 4s are generally a little bit slower, and he's able to get by guys, where if he's going against 3s that are a little quicker, it doesn't even matter if they're smaller than him. If he posts them up, he's probably shooting a mid-range fadeaway anyway. So that's the thing with him is at a 3 is his offensive skill set is not as special and doesn't work as well. And then he's tasked more with guarding the perimeter, which his best defensive role is as a secondary help defender at the rim, which is usually your power forward. Mm-hmm. So that's why I've always looked at him as a 4 instead of a 3, but obviously he has some flaws, which makes playing him at the 4 a bit problematic.
Yeah. And if we are going to stick with him at the 4 and we need to get a 3, I mean, obviously guys like OG and Mikhail would be perfect, but I mean, I talked about this before. I'm going after someone like Devin Vassell or something that can maybe be the next one of those guys, assuming he's healthy and stuff. But like he showed a lot of skills on ball too as a creator on offense that maybe like he's your answer on both sides of the floor. So like someone like that I want someone who's good on both offense and defense and can hit threes and stuff. So I would look for that kind of player.
Say their name again, because I'm thinking about the Scoot Henderson comment.
Devin Vassell.
Vassell. Yeah.
Okay. But and that's because I think OG and Mikhail are going to cost too much, and you basically have to treat them like they're a superstar in a trade, like the Rudy Gobert or Donovan Mitchell trades. And I don't want to do that for those guys. I mean, I would love to have either one of those guys. So I think you could get Vassell at a cheaper price. He's still on his rookie deal, I think, for one more season. So you could get him before he signs an extension and then work out an extension with him, or, let him go to restricted free agency next summer. And then, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of stuff I would do. Is go after just a slightly lesser version of that, but someone who has the potential and is still young enough to maybe take that jump into their category on the right situation.
Somebody brought up Karl Anthony Towns. He doesn't help us defensively, and he doesn't really help us with the whole physicality thing and going all in for him. I mean, I don't think Minnesota's going to trade him either, so Cat isn't an option, in my opinion. The comment I was thinking about, Eric, was somebody who was like, so draft Scoot and trade Ant, LOL. Oh, it was Arvaro. Said draft Scoot and trade Ant, LOL. But yeah, man, it's going to get complicated. I mean, if the Blazers do end up with that second pick, I mean, Scoot isn't any bigger than Ant, but have you seen how freaking jacked that dude is?
Yeah.
I mean...
That's because I've watched a few G League Ignite games this year, and the first one I watched earlier in the season, I was just like, the whole game, I just couldn't stop thinking about how, large he looks on the floor.
Yeah.
As like, I know he's like listed at 6'5", but like he looks like he's like a small forward size, playing point guard. And if he doesn't happen to measure out at like a small forward size, maybe he is the answer at the 3. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if we ended up with the second pick, you'd have to consider seeing what you could get for Ant and then drafting Scoot, because Scoot, I think, has a higher ceiling. That's why he's about to be the second overall pick in an absolutely loaded draft. And if it wasn't for the 7'5" freak, he'd be the number 1 overall pick. And I mean, obviously, the dream would be if you could move up to 2, and then you could trade Ant, Sharp, Nurk, and 4, the Knicks pick, and then 3 future Blazers first for Embiid, and then you could draft Scoot and have, Scoot at the 2. Add another forward, a physical forward, Grant, Embiid with Dame, then obviously that would be a team that could play physical enough basketball. But that obviously is a pipe dream. But Embiid, that's why I like Embiid so much, is because he brings so much strength, physicality, defense, rim protection, shot-making ability at the 5 spot. Like, he just brings a lot of things that we desperately need. The pick-and-roll play with him and Dame would be awesome. But yeah, It's tough. It's tough to have a physical enough basketball team that rebounds well enough with Dame, Ant, and Jeremy Grant in the starting lineup together. And so many people said Josh Hart was a bad fit in the starting lineup. I was never one of those people. I thought, maybe he'd be better off the bench where he could play some with the starting lineup, but you could have somebody else at the 3 spot, right? And his lack of shot making was a problem in the starting lineup, and sometimes it got to the point where it's like, oh, you can't keep starting this dude because he's refusing to shoot. But at the same time, his rebounding and level of physicality at that small forward position was exactly what a starting lineup consisting of Dame, Ant, and Jeremy Grant needed, and I think that's why they were able to be somewhat competitive at the start of the season when they came out of the gates with a chip on their shoulder. The problem is once that wore off and they didn't shoot as well and the zone wasn't tricking people, is they didn't have enough margin for error to continue to play good basketball.
And they never even tried him in the perfect role of coming off the bench like he's doing with New York.
Yep. So. Anyway, you ready for Tankathon?
Yeah, let's do it.
Talking about Scoot.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, let me update the score. Chicago beat Denver, Eric, in Denver. Yeah. That's a great result for Portland because they're chasing Chicago in the tank race.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game you wouldn't have expected the Bulls to win. And it's not like the Nuggets weren't healthy. They had their starting 5. They had Jokic, Michael Porter trash can, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, KCP. Honestly, so you know how we were going after Bruce Brown this past offseason?
Mm-hmm.
I really wish we got him.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that. Signs for the tax mid-level.
Yeah. Yep. Would
Yeah,
have been
he's
nice
one
to
of
have
those
him.
guys who
He would have
plays bigger than he is, too.
Dude, like, Brooklyn would play him at some center, even, and he could kind of hold his own there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's pull this thing up here. The 7th best odds are definitely in play, Eric. Definitely in play.
7th, yeah, for sure.
Because Chicago doesn't even have their pick unless it's top 4. So it's not like they're playing to tank right now. I mean, I guess they could try and tank it to have good odds again in the top 4, but the Blazers are only a game out of 7th and only 2 games out of 6th.
I'll look this up before I say something.
Okay.
The Bulls, I think they're still going for the play-in, right? They're only a game out of the play-in right now, so.
Yeah.
So they're obviously trying to go for that.
Yeah, and I mean, hypothetically, Portland's still going for the play-in, but their schedule is so ridiculously hard that I don't think it really matters. So it's like I don't even think we have to tank. 6th or 7th hardest remaining strength of schedule. Chicago has 17th hardest. Chicago's remaining strength of schedule is slightly on the easy side. Indiana's remaining strength of schedule is on the easy side. And then we're also competing with Washington, which they have an easier schedule than us. And then who's the other team tied with us? OKC has one of the easiest schedules left in the league. So does New Orleans and Lakers, who are right there with us battling for the play-in, quote-unquote. So, the schedule lines up for the Blazers to make a push for 6th best lottery odds for the 2nd year in a row, Eric. Hopefully this year would go better.
Yeah.
But 9% chance at Wemby, 37% chance at the top 4, and you're in position to maybe get Jarris Walker. If you don't move up, that's ideal. Anyway, anything else before we sim?
Horde Director, $10 donation. Man, I know we need to tank, but wasting one of Dame's best seasons ever hurts a crap ton. Yes, it does. That's why the trade deadline, we were so upset, and why we've been so negative since the trade deadline.
Yep. And that's why I don't understand anybody giving us crap for being negative, because we're doing exactly that. Thank you for the $10 dono.
Speaking of that, hi, Dro.
Oh, yeah, Dro. So, I'm not even going to say anything. Let's just simulate this lottery, because this is where we're going to be, Dro. Fingers crossed for good luck, all right?
Yeah, I did hear about the Sean Kemp thing, hoping it's not true, but that's sad.
Yeah, that's wild. 14 Lakers, 13 New Orleans, good news there. 12 Toronto, 11 Washington, good so far. 10 is Portland. Why are we 10th? I thought we were supposed to be 9th. Bummer. 9th is Utah. I guess OKC moved up, that's why. At 4, Orlando. At 3, Charlotte. At 2, Houston. At 1, OKC. Chet and Wemby, baby. Oh, God, that would be disgusting. Chet and Wemby together. Ugh. I'd cry.
Drew, what do you have money on Portland for, to make the playoffs or what?
All right, here you go, Eric. Here's the scenario. At 2, what do we do?
We trade 2 for Bradley Beal. Ant Nurk and 2 for Bradley Beal and 3.
That's so gross. Oh, that's gross. I wonder if there'd be anything to move down from 2 to 3 that Washington has that would be of interest to us.
Horde Director says, my family and I live in Minnesota, so we're taking our son to his very first Blazer game here in Minnesota on April 2nd. That's cool, but it's also pissed that it'll probably be a full tank mode at that point. Well, I mean, that's one of the good things about this season is I don't know if at any point they're actually going to be officially eliminated until like the last couple games of the season. I know that's pretty much the end of the season, but I think they're going to be close enough to where they still wouldn't go full tank mode.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're rooting to see Dame, probably still get to see him. Rahi says 2 for 4 in Franz if Magic wants Scoot. The Magic aren't trading Franz Wagner. I don't think they're.
I mean, I definitely
he's
offer.
too good. I mean, yeah, I'd offer it for sure, but he's too good. Franz is too good. Paolo's too good, and those guys, being the perimeter talents they are going to be matchup issues in the playoffs in the future once they get good enough. They do have to find that starting point guard of the future. You know, I mean, Suggs is really good defensively. If he can figure out how to shoot consistently, then it could be him. They have to find that. Their starting backcourt for the future. What is that? It could be maybe Suggs and Scoot if they end up at 2, and Markelle Fultz can be the third guard, and maybe that's a good enough core to contend in the future. I don't know. But Franz and Paolo together give them a lot of versatility on both sides of the floor. Even you can hide Banchero because Wagner can guard 4 positions. I don't think Wagner is gettable whatsoever. 2 for 4 in Wendell Carter Jr., our franchise center. I would not do that. I don't really think that's... I don't know. He's nice, but...
Yeah, if we get 2, we need to think bigger, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, where did Toronto end up in this?
Toronto is 12. Let me go back to the page. Yeah, they're 12.
So yeah, like OG 12 and 2 future first or something. Like we flip the script on them completely, and we get a massive pile of future first from a team.
Here's my question, Eric. This is a tough question, but with considering Jody's cheapness, would you rather trade 2 for something, some sort of package like that, and end up, we probably have to trade Nurkic or whatever, matching salary, etc. Or would you rather keep 2, draft Scoot to replace Ant, and trade Ant instead?
I think I'd rather trade 2 because that's like a finite thing. So yeah, I think I'd rather trade 2.
What do you mean it's a finite thing?
Like in a trade thing, like I think it's going to have more value than Anthony. The trick becomes matching salary, but
definitely has more value. But if it has more value to other teams than Anthony, shouldn't it have more value to us?
No, because like what I'm saying is, if you trade it for someone, pretty much, like let's just say we got that OG package I'm talking about. We know how good OG is, and we already know how good Ant is. Whereas Scoot still could be, Scoot could be an all-star, or he could be a bust. Like I'd probably, in this particular situation with a clear-cut number 2 that's a guard, I think I'm just trading him for the best possible package out there, and I think there will be plenty of offers.
Yeah, I don't know what my answer to that question is. That's why I asked it, because I'm starting to like the idea of Scoot a little bit more. I don't know. I like Ant-Man. Just feel like Scoot probably will end up being the better defender. And, it has more upside, more risk, but more upside probably. And at this point, we need upside plays. So if you can get similar packages for both, but it's easier matching salary if you're trading Ant than a pick. And with Jody's cheapness, maybe having a guy like Scoot making, 40% of what Ant is. Ant's averaging $25 million a year. Scoot's making like 9 or 10. Then we could potentially have more room to add better pieces with Jody's cheapness.
Yeah.
If we ended up with 2, those would be the conversations we'd be having.
if you got like a bunch of future firsts, though, wouldn't you be able to maybe do something with that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you trade 2 and Ant in some sort of combination to get, or 2 for firsts, and then, yeah, like, there would be so many different options. Up to this point, I was just like, if we get 2, we should trade it, but I'm starting to think maybe there could be a possibility where trading Ant and drafting Scoot at 2 would make more sense. I'm not completely closing the door on that.
In my mind, watching Scoot, I don't think he would be the best off ball off of Dame. I feel like he's better on ball and needs to go to a team where he's the lead guard right away. So, in my opinion, I think we already know that Anthony's shooting, despite his numbers being a little down this year. I already know that he can be a good catch and shoot 3-point shooter playing off a Dame. The defense is one thing. That's probably Scoot's probably going to be a good defense just based on his physicality. But yeah, I think for me, in Portland's situation around Dame, that's why I take the thing I already know with that.
Yeah.
That Anthony is a good spacer of the floor for Dame versus that.
I would value the defensive fit more than the offensive fit, though, because I still think Dame could carry this offense regardless.
Yeah, but look how hard he's working to carry that.
Yeah, but like
right now.
Scoot would still take a lot of pressure off him. It wouldn't be as optimal as a fit as Anthony Simons, but maybe Scoot can develop into a good enough shooter where it still works, right? And attacking closeouts, I mean, Scoot I think will be a better downhill player than Ant. Not to hate on Ant, that's just his strength. He's an athletic freak, strong as hell, quick. So
I just think if we got 2, that would be in full. How do we utilize this to get Dame the best player
you shop it and
Yeah.
see every option you get back for it, and then you weigh all those options. I just think there's a world where the best option could possibly be moving Ant and drafting Scoot there. I think that's possible, and up until now, it's kind of closing the door on that. But given our, lack of physicality and the problem of going all in on Grant too next to Dame and Ant, it's making me like the idea of Scoot a little bit more. So,
my guy, I'm sorry, but that's terrible. I trade 2 and Ant for DeRozan, our pick back, Patrick Williams, or Caruso.
That's absolutely disgustingly awful. I'm sorry, but yes, that is. Why? What is that a what? Yeah. Anyway, I mean, trade out options here obviously depends. Like if San Antonio falls to 6 or 5, then you talk about Vassell, and 5 or 6 could be doable. But like if there's teams like this down there, I mean, what are we getting back in a trade down? From Charlotte, Houston, or Detroit?
I mean, the number 2 pick in this draft is probably worth like 6 future firsts, like to a team that has a lot of firsts. Like that's how much value it would have.
Yeah, I'll say this. Okay, sure. I would want it to be a 3-team trade where we're immediately getting something impactful back,
right?
Flipping those firsts, you know what I mean? I don't want to just trade it for first and then just sit on those firsts going into next year.
Because like the New York traded the 11th pick for 3 future firsts last year, like and that was for, I forgot who went 11th. Who? Oh, it was it Ousmane?
Ousmane Dieng, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, can you if he was worth 3 firsts to the Thunder, I can't imagine what the second pick would be worth to a team like
it'd be worth a ton.
San Antonio has some extra firsts, I believe. Like they might.
I don't know if they have enough because it would end up being like they're going all in on Scoot, which I'm not sure they're in a position to do. They just don't have enough yet. So
that'd be Scoot and Wemby.
Oh, in this scenario, yeah. That would be, you're right. I mean, that'd be interesting. But see, I'd want Vassell back in that scenario.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Too. I want first and Vassell.
Well,
I'd just be worried. Go ahead.
We could get like Vassell, Collins, and like 5 future firsts or something.
Yeah. And what salary are we trading out?
Well, I mean, Vassell's still on his rookie deal. One of them fits in the TPE we have. The other one could be matched by like Knox and Keon.
Yeah, you're right, actually. My worry would be like if they're just trading the second pick for first, though. They'd like trade it for first without knowing exactly what they're going to trade those first for, and then nothing comes to fruition. And they're just like, well, we just really like the flexibility going forward with all these first round picks. And it's like, great, you're going to do like a Robert Covington trade where you trade two of them for like a Robert Covington equivalent, which doesn't work out. And then all of a sudden it's like, what did we get from a guy who, 5 years from now, watch, he's going to be a superstar. And we're talking about, oh, we turned into Larry Nance Jr. and Robert Covington
right.
2.0.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I'd be worried about with that sort of plan. So it's like I'd do that.
Well,
I'd be okay with Cronin doing that if he knew exactly what he was flipping those first for, and it was for something legitimate.
Yeah. Okay. So we could use the New York pick, right, to get our pick back, or any of the first we got from San Antonio, right? Well, let's just say we used the New York pick and 5 seconds we got from Gary Payton just to get our future picks back, right?
Yeah.
Then we'd have Ant, Sharp, and then all our future picks we could trade 4 future firsts, and let's just say we got 4 firsts from San Antonio as well, right? Yeah. That's 8 firsts and Sharp and Anthony that we could put into trades. Like, how is any team beating that package if, like, we could basically name the star we wanted to get, whether that's Bam or whoever.
I do feel like if we're trading for a star, that it might be easier just to use the second pick in that package instead of a bunch of future firsts,
Right. I don't know.
But trade down scenarios, I don't really see a good one here. If you're getting Franz, it would probably be 9 in Franz. Like, if they're willing to move off of him, you're not getting 4 in Franz for 2. You'd get 9 in Franz at best. Mm-hmm. But I still don't think I think he's basically untouchable. Maybe to Houston for Jabari Smith in 6th.
Yeah.
Which I know you like.
Well, what about you said you didn't like Wendell Carter, but what if it was 4, 9, and Wendell Carter?
I would do it if Brandon Miller didn't have the situation that he's in. Mm-hmm. Because then you just take Amon Thompson or Brandon Miller. But I don't really... I am super hesitant on drafting Brandon Miller right now. I don't even want to debate it, I'm hesitant on that. New Orleans for 13 and CJ back.
Oh, that's funny.
Or to the Lakers for 14 and LeBron. Yeah, there's a really not an ideal trade down scenario here. I mean, Detroit, maybe you take an interest in Duren, but it's not. It's like the Wendell Carter Jr. trade. It's not big enough.
Nurkin 2 for Miles Turner and 8.
Oh, God, people would be saying that stuff, dude. Yep. It would drive me crazy. It would drive me absolutely freaking crazy. Like, we have no physicality. Let's trade Yusuf Nurkic for Miles Turner. And trade down. We suck at rebounding. Yeah, let's trade for the worst rebound starting center in the league. that would be the conversations, the type of debates that we'd be having. Mm-hmm. Anyway, what's today? Wednesday? We got stream tomorrow.
Yeah. Our director says if Phoenix doesn't go to the finals, does KD stay? Yeah, he's under contract for 3 more years. So yes.
Yeah. I don't know, unless he ends up hating Monty and Ayton and demands another trade. I mean, who knows with him?
No, they'd maybe end up trading CP, but Ayton's going to be the fall guy if they don't make it. And yeah. So Ayton could go back, and they're a team that once the year no trade restriction is lifted with the Pacers, if the Pacers are still interested, that's when a Miles Turner for Ayton thing might happen again. Yeah.
I have questions about Miles Turner playing on like a contending team. Like he could, it's not like if the Suns did that trade they wouldn't contend, but I mean, you gotta be able to rebound in the playoffs, man. I mean, if you have KD at the 4, Miles Turner at the 5, Booker, Chris Paul, and I don't know, Josh Okogie at the 3, are you rebounding well enough?
Yeah,
Anyway.
It probably doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it might not matter. You could outscore teams, but it's like if you're gonna go up against, Milwaukee, especially in the finals, like I could see Milwaukee just crushing them on the boards.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What does the Jimmy Butler package look like?
It pretty much has to be Ant and Nurk and stuff because I think his contract goes up to like 40-some million.
I would not trade more than that. And if I'm Miami, I would probably take that if you're looking to blow it up.
Well, here's the thing, Brian the Kid, I saw you mention earlier that Miami could blow it up, which is true. But just keep in mind, Miami in their entire history with Pat Riley and stuff has not once ever gone the whole trade a star for draft picks and rebuild that way. It's always trade a star for another star or be bad themselves so they can get their own draft pick, like they did a couple times with kind of blanking on the name, Summer League Blazer legend. I don't know who you're talking about. The guy who went Beasley.
Yeah.
Went number 2 after Derrick Rose.
Michael Beasley.
Yeah, so they got him. They got Dwayne Wade. Yeah, so they keep their own pick if it's bad, but they don't really trade like Jimmy Butler type players for multiple first round picks. It's usually for another star. So yeah, I don't know.
Shout out to Horror Director, another $10 dono. He says, another no reason dono, but thanks for going live even on terrible Blazer nights. You two rock. Best two-way streamers ever, averaging at least 27 good points a stream. Thank you, Horror Director. Yes, I'm glad my 27 point per game average in the stream is higher than my college average. Appreciate you.
My on-ball defense is worse than the Blazers, so I'm not the best two-way perimeter defender, but if you need a help defender and a communicator, I got you.
I was gonna say before the end, what, you're Trae Young, 27 and no on-ball defense.
No, I'm more like
and a bald spot.
I don't have a bald spot. Jokic, I'm like Jokic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Myers. Yeah, let's not go there. Anyway, we'll be live tomorrow on our second channel. Link in description box below. Blazers Uprise live in the off season. That's where we'll be streaming primarily. So definitely want to make sure you're subscribed before this season ends. And tomorrow we can. I don't know what we'll talk about. We'll talk about whatever.
Yeah.
It's hard to find things to talk about this time of year. So, but college basketball next Thursday we can talk about,
Yeah.
We can talk about prospects and stuff. So,
yep.
Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your nights. And yeah, we'll have a post-game show on Friday. I don't know if I'm going to be there for that, or it might be a shorter stream. We'll figure it out. Just stay tuned. But yeah, stream tomorrow.
I will be here regardless.
Yeah. Might have Eric running it. Might have to set him up with these graphics somehow. Anyway, anything else?
Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you have a good night. Hope to see you tomorrow and Friday after the game.
Yep, this has been the Blazers Uprise postgame show presented by BetOnline. Use that promo code BELIEVE for a 50% reward bonus, and we are out of here. See you at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.